Back in 2013, there was a really interesting study that discovered that 5 years after divorce, women were way happier than they had ever been before. And it was quite a big study. I think there were about 10,000 participants, um, aged between 16 and 60. And women also reported that despite the financial setbacks, um, that they were still a lot happier than they were before they were divorced. So if you're going through a divorce sort of in your 50s and you're feeling a little bit lost and a little bit uncertain about your future, that's completely normal. You know, it's a big transition. Um, then this video might help you. So it's all about discovering your new self, your true self, before all of the trauma happened. And it can be, and it is, a challenging and emotional journey, but it's well worth it. Um, and it's an opportunity for growth and transformation. And we mustn't miss that opportunity, must we? So we're going to be exploring some of the emotional and psychological aspects of divorce, that also spring from this significant life change. And we're going to discover things about our identity, rebuild our identity, um, so that we can live a happier life after divorce in midlife. And that's what we're going to do in this chat on this channel anyway. So hello, my name's Sarah and I help women in midlife live their best life ever after divorce, no matter what's happened in the past. So in this video, I'm going to explain how it's possible to change our life trajectory to one of being sad, victimised and miserable, to one of living a rewarding, happier life, because it's totally possible. So my divorce from the narcissist made me question absolutely everything that I thought was true. And I discovered that I was literally able to change my mind. And I even made a vow that I was going to learn to live a happier life. I had been a victim, but I didn't want to keep living as a victim. And I wanted to make a study of how I could create happiness in my life. Because I felt so much sadness because of the beliefs I had been holding about relationships, that the opposite is true, that if I could create that, then I could also create happiness. And I still believe that to this day. What I learned was you cultivate happiness like you cultivate a garden. You grow it. The little things that you do every day help to grow your happiness. And this is such an empowering life change, because up to that point I thought I was so victimized that it was like, people do this to you, life does this to you, there's nothing you can do about it. But after divorce I realized, no, there is something you can do about it. You can cultivate happiness like you cultivate a garden. So what you want to grow in your garden is up to you. It's completely up to you, isn't it? Isn't that an empowering thought as well, to know that you can create what you want in your life? You can cultivate your life just like a garden. You can choose things that you want in it. So this is my primary challenge, was to start learning how to live a happy life. Now, I'm not saying that this was easy. I was very highly triggered and very highly traumatised, as you can imagine, after living 2 decades with a psychopath. And I knew I had to deal with this aspect of my life. What I didn't want to do was brush it under the sweep it under the carpet and pretend it never happened. I knew that I had actual trauma to deal with, and I had to deal with it. And so it's like, okay, So how do I deal with all of these traumatic things that happened to me? How do I process what happened? And thank goodness for the internet, because it's something, again, I studied. Like studying how to be happy, I studied how to process trauma. And there is an absolute wealth of methodologies out there that you can find that resonate with you to help you deal with the trauma and understand about how trauma affects you. It's stored in your body. There are videos on the channel explain a little bit more about that. But I discovered things that helped me, energetic healings, things like holistic healings, like emotional freedom technique, or sometimes that's called tapping. So that's tapping like that. And on video, you can find it on YouTube. Loads of practitioners, tapping practitioners, that help to process trauma. So if you're in this situation now, then make a study of how to process trauma. Start researching it. Go and find things that you can use now to help you deal with the trauma of having gone through a relationship breakup. As it turned out, looking back, this was a genius move on my part. So I'm full of praise for my younger self that she did this, because she learnt skills that she uses now today. Because the trauma that we experienced in our marriage is also a repetition of trauma we experienced in our childhood. So being able to understand how trauma affects you and how to clear it for yourself is absolutely vital if you're going to start this new journey of transformation and creating a happier life. So at the time, I felt so broken and traumatised that even regular therapy or counselling sessions weren't going to touch the sides of what I was going through. I knew that. And when I researched the topic and I found things that worked for me, I literally became my own therapist. And you can do that too. So if you're finding this video helpful, please subscribe to the channel. It will help spread the message to many more people. So as I was starting out in my brand new life, I was able to take stock of my values, because in the narcissistic marriage, my values were completely skewed all over the place for all sorts of reasons. And being a victim of narcissistic abuse had me questioning my own sanity. And one of the ways I was able to touch base with my true self was to literally do an audit of all my values. And it was really important for me to do this. I just felt I had to do it. I had to get some clarity about who I really was. And it was really, in some ways, it was challenging, it was emotionally challenging, but I've never forgotten this experience. And what I actually did was I took a, a pile of post-it notes, I took a Sharpie and a corkboard, and I wrote out all the values that I had. So, and I literally stuck them on a corkboard. So one, and this was a really important aspect of healing after narcissistic abuse. So all the horrible things that had happened, I looked at them in detail, faced them, and it's like, okay, so I had actually married a pathological liar. It goes with the territory. And this outraged me, that I was lied to. I mean, looking back, I'm thinking, well, okay, but that's what they do, you know, so deal with it. So what I had to do was like, okay, so if that outraged me so much, what's important? That is a sign that something about truth is important to you. And it's like, okay, so the penny began to drop. Okay, so being truthful and honest in relationships is one of my values. That was a light bulb moment. Okay. So I wrote that on my post-it note. I stuck it on my corkboard and I went, right, okay, what else outraged me and traumatized me in the relationship? And on the flip side of all of these horrible things were my values. And I was able to literally create an inventory of all my values. It's like these represent who I am. All of these is who Sarah is, because it might seem obvious to some people, but when you've lived for 20 years with a narcissist, you don't know your own mind. You're so confused. So it gave me so much clarity doing this. And I've kept the post-it notes to this day because it was such an important process for me to go through. And I'm just so glad I did that. So by the stage I'd done all of this, I created this inventory. I think I turned 50 that year, and it was a really strange experience. A lot of people sort of might lament that they're getting older, but on my 50th birthday, I didn't feel old and broken anymore. I felt optimistic. I felt, right, there's things I'm not sure about, but I'm going to find out about. I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to start living my best life. So I had a wonderful 50th birthday. And as it happened, I had a wonderful birthday week. And then I thought, well, I can feel like this all year if I want to. And I've been feeling like that ever since. It was like a gift of life. I got my life back. I was in the driving seat. I was cultivating my garden. I wanted to get a really good life, and it was just a really important experience. So I do recommend that you do something similar. Okay, so at this stage I had done these things. So as a result of working on myself, I made a study of how to create and cultivate happiness in my life. I had discovered some energy healing tools that I could use on myself to process the traumas of having lived with a narcissist for 2 decades. And I did an audit of my values, which gave me a sense of confidence and identity of this is who Sarah is. And if any of these things resonate with you, if you've been through something similar, then please drop a comment below. I'd love to read them. And if you want to know more about how to get your empowered life after divorce in midlife, then check out these videos here and here. I'll see you in the next one.